Hello, everybody, and welcome. In this video, we are going to explore the 2021 City Nature Challenge and how you can get involved. I'm Colleen Hitchcock. I am one of the steering committee members here in Boston, organizing our local efforts to get out and document biodiversity this April. The City Nature Challenge, as this slide here shows, is organized internationally by the California Academy of Sciences, along with the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. And then locally in Boston, you have Brandeis University, Earthwise Aware, the Massachusetts Bay's National Estuary Partnership, Earthwatch, Suffolk University, UMass Boston, and Zoo New England all collaborating to help organizing and get people out to document nature this spring. In this video, I'm gonna give an overview of what the CNC is, how we use iNaturalist to engage, and how you or your organization can get involved with the CNC this spring. So let's start at the beginning when we think about what is the City Nature Challenge. The City Nature Challenge is essentially a 4-day BioBlitz documenting urban biodiversity or nature, right, in and around the city. Okay, so it's this brief, intensive survey of biodiversity over a set area and over a set period of time. When we think about the history of the City Nature Challenge globally, as I mentioned, the California Academy of Sciences and the Natural History Museum in LA got together in 2016 as a city-to-city challenge to document biodiversity. And what they found was that the idea really took off and that the communities really wanted to get out and help to document nature. In 2017, cities across the US joined. Boston was one of them. So we here in Boston are excited to celebrate our 5th year engaging in the CNC. And as you see across the bottom of this slide, right, participation in terms of number of cities, and as we'll see in a little bit, number of observations and number of people involved globally has continued to grow. When you think about what the CNC is, the City Nature Challenge, it's an opportunity for communities to come together and collect urban biodiversity data. This data is data that doesn't just kind of live, in a location that you can't access, but it's actually open and available to anyone and everyone. When we think about the goal of the CNC, it's to connect people to our local nature in our urban and metropolitan areas. We're hoping to grow biodiversity observers who are out volunteering their time to both learn about nature, but to also document nature. And we hope that you're connecting with one another, both in person and online with your local communities, with our regional community here in Boston, and then internationally with people on iNaturalist. And so we're really hoping to kind of grow our volunteer identifiers as well and diversify them. And of course, have fun through collaboration or maybe even a friendly competition. So kind of connecting with your friends and family, putting a little challenge out there, perhaps who can document the most species in their backyard, in their neighborhood park, whatever that challenge might be. Now, when we look at the City Nature Challenge and the history of the CNC and how the CNC has grown over time, what we see is, right, we have that growth from 2 cities to over 325 cities this year who are registered to participate and engage in the CNC. But what we also see is that the number of observers has grown, right, from 1,000 people that first year to over 41,000 people last year, and that the number of observations has steadily grown over time, right? That first year with just 2 cities having about 19,000 or almost 20,000 species, 20,000 observations, whereas last year we had 815,000 observations. So pretty wild growth in terms of, well, what does that mean? Yeah, okay, we're documenting dandelions in the city. We're documenting robins, but we're also documenting things like skunk habits, right? We're also documenting things like garlic mustard, which you see in that middle image, and Japanese knotweed over on the right. So invasive species. And all of this is data that you can use to help your local community manage invasive species. It's also information that can help document where rare species might be in our local communities. And so this is data that together we can collect and openly we can share. When we look at the growth of observations on iNaturalist, and if you're not familiar with iNaturalist, don't worry, I promise to explain in just a second what iNat is and how it works. But it is a global biodiversity platform where you can learn about species around you, okay? And then the byproduct of you learning about those species is that you're also documenting where those species occur. And so when we look at iNaturalist, which has been around for a little over 10 years at this point, what we see is that there has been this persistent growth over time of people engaging on the platform, but that these peaks, as we look at this graph here, these peaks of the addition of observations is that each year that the CNC has existed, it has set records for both the number of observations, okay, that have been made on the platform, and then for kind of where the new norm is for number of observations moving forward. So the CNC is really a catalyst for introducing people to the iNaturalist platform. It's great that we're having this consistent annual documentation here in Boston of what's going on each spring with our species. And it's adding new biodiversity observers to the platform who are documenting species all year round. So that baseline and keeping that baseline or pushing that baseline up after each CNC is something really exciting that we like to see. So how does the City Nature Challenge work? Well, here's the deal. The City Nature Challenge happens in 2 phases. The first phase we refer to as the observation phase, where participants go out. So you and I go out, we go out with our phones, we go out with our digital cameras, and we observe species. And we document those species by taking pictures. Taking pictures isn't the only way, but it's the easiest way. And then we go on the iNat platform and we add those observations. And so that observation period is between April 30th and May 3rd. Once the observation period is over, and each spring that Boston has engaged in the CNC, it's always been in this window, kind of that last full weekend of April. Okay, so great opportunity for those who are thinking about, well, what are the Earth Day events that I can do to celebrate nature? Well, you can go out with your friends or maybe organize something on a really small scale, right, to get out and document nature with your community. And then what happens is there's the second phase of the CNC, and that second phase is the identification phase. This year, that identification phase occurs between May 4th and May 9th. And that is when you have the opportunity to go on the iNat platform and help to make identifications of the species that are seen. So when you add your observation to iNat, you can add your identification, and we encourage you to identify the species to the best of your ability, but you don't have to know what every species is. You just have to kind of help the community get it on the path to an identification. And then in phase 2, other volunteers engage on the platform along with you to help identify those species. And actually, you'll see in phase 1 that people are identifying the species too. We distinguish these 2 phases in that there's this kind of 5-day window where each city that's engaging in the CNC has an opportunity to kind of move as many observations to as best an identification as they can get them to. And the goal and the hope is, right, that, you know, by the end, when all is said and done, and we look at these, make these comparisons around the globe, we can say something about the data, we can compare what's going on among cities, and we can also celebrate all of the species that together we have documented. Here in Boston, we have some specific mission, or we have a specific mission about what we've been trying to do over the last 5 years and that we're hoping to move forward, and what some of our specific goals are in terms of why, you know, we as the steering committee and why collaborating organizations get involved with the CNC. And so our specific mission is that the CNC Boston area aims to increase scientific knowledge by building this diverse community that can work together, contributing to and accessing information from open biodiversity platforms to advance research, education, and civic engagement. You can read all of our specific objectives, both on this slide here and on the website through Zoo New England. It kind of goes into those more explicit details. But the idea is that we're getting out into these kind of wild spaces, as well as those not so wild spaces. And we're acknowledging, documenting, celebrating the species that we find there, that we're empowering communities to document their biodiversity, that we can start to asking questions around biodiversity as it's distributed, as it's accessible through our communities. When we look at Boston specifically, we hope that by building scientific knowledge and literacy, that the CNC Boston area can help to create a community that understands the importance of biodiversity and healthy environments, that together we can respond to and monitor a changing environment by having this information and data available about our local biodiversity, and that people who get involved in documenting biodiversity, that they feel empowered to contribute to these civic decisions around nature. We've had great success, and we hope it continues this year, with people who are new to iNaturalist, getting on iNaturalist, staying on iNaturalist, and help us document Boston's biodiversity all year round. So we have a companion project to our City Nature Challenge project, which is the Boston Area Biodiversity Project, which you'll find on iNaturalist as well. And finally, when we think about our specific goals for the CNC, right, we're engaging communities. We hope that new observers join us to make observations, and that they stay with us afterwards and continue observing biodiversity. That those of you who know about iNaturalist, have been iNaturalists, that you'll take the time and at least make 20 observations a day, let's say, during the CNC. And for those super users out there, we are in awe, and we encourage you to push yourself to make 5% more observations this year than you did last year. We recommend, right, with everything going on and COVID and not knowing what exactly the future will hold in terms of being able to get out and about, that you stay in places where you can be safe, those yards, that local focus. We encourage you to explore diverse and unique habitats where it is safe to do so, that people from all communities locally will get involved with us, that together we can reach 25,000 observations during the CNC, and hopefully a minimum of 50% of those observations will reach research grade. So where is it that you can observe during the City Nature Challenge? During the CNC, you can see here a map of our research area, and we have drawn a pretty generous map to designate the Boston area. It essentially includes, or goes all the way out to Route 495, includes 170 towns and a significant marine area all the way down to the Cape and the island. The steering committee is super open to ideas, and we welcome you to reach out to us and to connect with us around some of your ideas for collaborating, particularly with marine organizations, and also to promote year-round observations. We really love our happy little snail, as we kind of call this map. If you look at it, it kind of looks like a snail heading south. But anything that you observe within this research area will automatically be collected during the CNC on iNaturalist. When we look at our numbers locally, so we looked at our numbers globally before, but when we look at the City Nature Challenge Boston area by the numbers, what you'll see is over time, we've really had some growth. Now, 2020, as you kind of look at this data here, is a bit of an anomaly in that we didn't increase the number of observations that we made as we had from 2017 to 2018 and from 2018 to 2019. But one of the really interesting things as you look at that 2020 data is that despite the fact that we had fewer observations, we actually had more species overall being documented. And so with 2020, we know it was a challenging time. We all had to kind of pivot in how our approach to making observations was going to kind of take hold given the COVID pandemic. But we were really excited to see that people went slow, they stayed local, and that we captured probably more of the biodiversity near home than we had in previous years. We recommend that we continue that approach again this year. We hope that our goal is to actually collect about 25,000 observations. We're hoping that we can kind of break that ceiling of 1,000 observers and hopefully maybe get to 1,200 observers this season. So get out with, maybe a handful of friends, encourage them to get out, set up some maybe friendly challenges between families as a way to get out and document biodiversity. We're hoping that, kind of encouraging everyone to get out and observe, that we'll see some of these percentages change over time. I want to share my own iNaturalist experience doing the CNC over time. And as I mentioned previously, we started here in 2017. I'm looking forward to 2021 and seeing what that data holds for me. But here's some of my personal numbers around the CNC. So that first year in 2017, we went out, we got out there. I personally made 85 observations and documented 57 species. In 2018, you can see my numbers really kind of grew. I had a strategy for how I was getting out there, had 283 observations and 122 species. Ditto for 2019, getting up to about 396 and 176 species. And kind of like we saw in our regional data, not quite as many observations in 2020, but still a significant number of species. When I kind of, strolled back through some of my favorite observations from 2020, these two over here were two that stood out for me. This kind of really charismatic long claw hermit crab kind of spoke to me. He looks like he's trying to escape from my hands there. And then I really liked this bald-faced hornet that I also observed. So you can follow me. I'm at Hitchco. You can find me on iNaturalist. You can check me out during the CNC. I'll be looking for your observations as well as we get out there. So with that, I'm going to end this kind of introduction to the City Nature Challenge. I hope that you will get out and join us for the CNC this year. If you're new to iNaturalist and want to get a tutorial on what is iNaturalist and how it integrates with the City Nature Challenge, I encourage you to look at our iNaturalist platform video, which is also going to be hosted or is hosted on our YouTube channel as well. With that, happy observing for the 2021 CNC. If you are a local organization looking to get involved with us, shoot us an email. We're happy to connect with you to brainstorm around ideas about how your group can get involved and about how your group can also use iNaturalist to document biodiversity in your community and to together document our regional biodiversity. All right, thanks everybody. We hope to see you out and see you on iNaturalist soon.